I really like the mods that are pretty accurate, because I'm not only a history buff, I am as well some guy that loves to have a look at interesting stuff, including clothes, armament, weaponry, and armor. So we're going to check that out right now. So over here, we are going to begin. Now, I have to tell you something. Let me just move a little bit away. I have to tell you all something. This is a huge mod that has thousands, no, not thousands, hundreds of units, unique units that are pretty lovely when you see the actual models. I haven't seen anything like it. On my channel, I have as well the Italian Wars mod. The mod of the Italian Wars is slightly from the 15th, end of the 15th century and 16th century. This one here is 17th century. I have decided to begin with this one because, as I just mentioned, this one has a variety of units that are very pretty. For this mod, there's a lot of factions. You're going to see that are almost, if I'm not mistaken, there could be 28, if I'm not mistaken, 25, I think. It's huge. I'm going to cover, obviously, all the factions because the majority of the factions have unique units, but because of the scope and size, I have separated the whole thing in tiers. The tiers are not exactly mechanically on the game. It's simply a way for myself to make these more easy to digest. So this is tier 1. Tier 1 has to do with everything that is common for all the actual factions. So all the units that are common for all the factions are going to be present right now. You can see them all around the map here. So we have here the section of halberdiers, and over here we have the section of pikes. Then we have the section of gunmen, which are the units that use gunpowder weapons. Then over there we have standard, very peasant units, and then we have special units that are religious units, such as that unit over there, if it's clear from this distance. Okay, the tier 2 is going to be about units that are a little bit more powerful, but are common for all the factions. And then tier 3, I have separated tier 3 just with the cavalry units that are common for all factions and artillery units. Then we're going to see each faction and what is unique for each faction. So without further ado, I think I'm going to begin, and let's begin here with the halberdiers. Now we're in the 17th century, and you should say, hey, why beginning with the halberdiers? Well, actually, halberdiers were pretty prestigious soldiers in this time period. You see, in this time period, you have the pikes, and to be a pikeman in this time period, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Actually, to be a musketeer in this time period is something not so prestigious. However, this is going to change as the time goes by, but we're going to begin with the halberdiers, because the halberdiers are people with money, nobles most likely, that are going to be on the service of some magnate, or as mercenaries, or they're going to be ready to defend their possessions in their actual cities or countries. So let's begin with this unit here. This is a halberdier unit, very common in the 1648 mod. So let's go and begin. If we see this model here, we have a pretty nice model, and he's holding actually what is called a poleaxe. Now, the pole arms are very common and are commonly widely used in the 17th century, more likely on the 16th century, but they're still in use here. And in some cases, commanders are going to be using the pole arm. Over here we have a poleaxe, as you can see. You can see that it's straightforward and an axe, and they are holding it. And then we have, in terms of uniform, let me go here, because we're going to talk a little bit about the clothing here. Okay, he has a hat, a white hat and a plume. It was very common. Then we have, of course, these guys are, some of them are using what is called a buff coat and whiskers, this thing that you are seeing right now. Let me just over here we can see whiskers. This is called a whisker, and he's using normal clothing. Sometimes this clothing is going to be made of wool if you are not so rich, and of leather as well. So we're going to have leather clothes, and as well we have trousers that are going to be laced over here on the actual knee. Some of the troops are going to use shoes, some other are going to use boots. We're going to see the differences over here. This one is using shoes. Now let's have a look at these interesting shoes. This unit has orange shoes, kinda, and they have as well the same type of shoe over here. This is a crimson shoe, that's the color. And then we have trousers of two to three different colors, and the buff coat with a belt. He has as well this stripe over there, and we can see the hat. He has a brim hat with a plume. Some of them are using white plumes, and some of them are using, as this one, a red plume. Another important thing to note, let me go just to the backs, if we can see something that is remarkable. I don't think so. Some of them have, for example, this type of over the coat. He has some sort of leather. This just as this guy here over here. This is a leather jacket over the buff coat. So that's pretty much what we can see for this unit. And over here we see the drummer, and this is the guy that is holding the actual flag, is the ensign. We can clearly see that the ensign has a sword. Commonly in this time period, the swords are going to be straight swords that are going to be called cutlass. You can see that these guys don't have cutlass. These guys use the actual poleaxe with both hands. And then, let me see, just hit enter here just to see these guys in movement. Some of them are going to start yelling at the enemy and have a little bit of fancy movement. So the actual guys that are here, these three guys, one is the musician, that is going to be the guy that is going to use the drum, the drummer, the ensign, that is a pretty prestigious rank, that is holding again, is holding a sword here, and it has another sword here, which is a cutlass. And then he's carrying a pouch. We can see here there's no pouch with these other units, and that's it. He has a leather strap on the actual chest, crossing his chest, and he has a hat with plumes. Now the captain here, as you can see, he's carrying something that resembles an actual poleaxe, but it's actually, this is a halberd, but more likely is a guisarme. It's not exactly the same, as you can see from here. This thing has a blade that has resembles an axe. That's the reason it's called a poleaxe, and this thing is more likely a guisarme or a halberd. The thing is that in this time period, the commanders are going to be distinctive on their actual units by holding this type of weapon. He holds as well a beautiful pistol in his hand, and this is a very wide, he has a very bulky pistol, as you can see. I really like the detail here because it's very unique in terms of what you can achieve and what you can find in other mods. This guy has a pistol. Now, as the time goes, as the time progresses, as we move to the 18th century, this type of weapon, this pistol, is going to become more narrow. I mean, the actual shape of the pistol is going to become narrower. But we're going to see that because there's a lot of mods as well depicting this thing. In here, it's a bulky pistol, and he has a saber instead of having this straight cutlass. He has a saber, which is a curved sword. And another distinction from this, which is the captain, he has boots, as you can see, black boots. Now, boots are slightly more expensive, so that's the reason this guy is wearing this type of uniform, just to make sure that this guy is depicted as the captain of the actual regiment here. Okay, enough for the halberdiers, and now we're going to go here, and we're going to, let me just show off something interesting here. I'm going to hit enter, and we'll wait for these guys to put their weapons down, because this is something beautiful that these guys do in this, well, most likely in all the mods that have pikemen. So we're going to begin here. Oops, that camera movement was very aggressive, so I'm going to move it like this. Okay, so we have the first unit that we're going to talk about here, and these are the pikemen. Here we have pikes. Okay, pikes is the core unit, the most important unit for the 17th century. These armies without this are pretty much useless. There are no armies without this. So these guys over here, I think this video, I'm going to cut this video in two parts, because I have a lot to show here and to talk about. Okay, let's begin with the first thing that you can see is that the first ranks are basically crouching on the floor with the actual pike in a 45-degree angle, and then we have the other two ranks. They are holding the pike. The second rank is holding the pike on the actual waist, and the other guys, the third rank, they are holding pretty much the pike in a different fashion. As you can see, they're holding the pike horizontally. Now, this position is the best position that they can engage cavalry, and that's the reason they are going to be using this position. Now, on game actually, this is by hitting the defend button and you're going to get this position if you get some sort. In this time period, the cavalry was used completely different from the medieval times, but as well, if someone charges at you, you can use this. There is the other position, which is not the guarding mode, not defending mode, which is these guys that are going to use a different position just to make the pike push, what is called the pike push. Okay, so now we have here, these guys have Cuirass. Now, I'm going to define and clarify the fact that these guys have a Cuirass. Let me show you. The breastplate and the backplate, if they are different, if they are separate pieces, is not called a cuirass. If it's in one piece, it's called a cuirass. This thing over here, as we can see, this does not have straps, so it's just one piece, so it's a cuirass. It's clearly a cuirass. We're going to see the next unit at the back over there. That unit has what is called, it's not a cuirass, it's a breastplate, it's a plate armor with breastplate and backplate. You're going to see that. So these guys as well, as you can see, apart from the actual pike, they have a sword, a cutlass, and the actual, you can see the different. Now, right now we're going to see what is the shape of these. In this time period there were different shapes of pikes. These guys are using the same type of shoes that are on the other unit, the unit that I talked before, the halberdiers. Again, these guys have as well. Visually here we can see that these guys are using gauntlets. Usually the gauntlets are made of leather or are made of iron gauntlets. These guys as well have trousers strapped on the knee, and over here we can see Now, I'm going to enter into a debate here. If someone has more expertise on helmets in this time period, could leave me a comment and we can discuss this. Now, I can tell that this could be as well a morrion. In this time period, the Spanish troops were actually using the morrion. The morrion is the helmet, but I think the morrion is more bended into the front visor. It has a more prominent bending, you know, to the sides. But this thing could be. So now that I think about it, I'm going to open the discussion here. It could be the bassinet has no this type of brim on the actual helmet, this brim here. I think it could be a morrion. The reason I'm not calling it a morrion, even though it has this very distinct shape, the reason I'm not calling it a morrion is because you're going to see morrions on this mod, and they are most likely used by better pikemen, or more exactly the tercios of Spain, and they have plumes. But I could be wrong. This could be as well. It has its own protection here. But for this unit... Okay, so then what I have said, what we can see actually on the model, but there are things that this model is lacking. So the things that this unit is lacking, because in this time period it was very, very important to cover the thighs, so there were this type of... There are actually models in this mod that have what I'm going to describe here, but this guy is lacking tassets. Tassets are thigh protection, so these guys don't have tassets. These guys don't have pauldrons as well. I don't know why, but pauldrons were part of the actual armor. So lacking pauldrons and lacking tassets, having a cuirass and a helmet, possibly a morrion with leather. Sometimes I confuse this thing. It could be leather, it could be iron. So gauntlets they have, so it's okay. Some of them, if you were to have a better armor, you would add greaves into the equation. Okay, let's move on into the next one. Now this one, I'm going to show you a picture here, and as you can see, this is based, and I'm pretty sure it's based on this picture. This one is based on the so-called the grass armor, and by grass I don't mean the actual grass, I mean the city of Grass in Austria. So this is the grass armor. Now these guys have, for my understanding, I can see that they have slightly different at the beginning. Now I think it's the same pike. At the beginning I thought this pike was different, but these guys have the same pike. So these guys have the grass armor. Now this is clearly something that I can tell you what type of helmet this unit is carrying. He carries a burgonet. This is clearly a burgonet. The burgonet is clearly seen here. It has protection on the sides for the cheeks and has a protection for the neck, and this is called a burgonet. He has, as you can see, the straps here, leather straps, and it's separating the front plate, the breastplate from the back plate, so this is not a cuirass. So in contrast, this guy is having breastplate and backplate armor protection. He has gauntlets as well, is lacking the pauldrons that I was mentioning, and he has slightly different shoes, not boots. It still has not so loosened trouser. The type of trouser of this unit is different. The colors are, are nothing nothing remarkable, nothing that has anything to do with the uniform. In this time period there was no uniforms. We're going to talk about this because uniforms are going to be introduced by Gustavus Adolphus and the Swedish army, but most likely all the troops are going to have their own clothes. They're going to provide their own colors. It doesn't matter what colors they use. The thing is that the armor was the thing. So he doesn't have as well the tassets that I was mentioning. At the back we can see that it is very well protected as well. This is using the, for me this is, I'm going to leave it as iron, iron gauntlets and slightly different shoes. So yeah, this is the next unit. This is a more regimental, this regiment has a more specific armor. Most of these guys are going to have colors resembling their flags that they are carrying. So yeah, these guys have the grass armor. So now we go here, and over here we have the mercenary pikes. So mercenary pikes, as you can see, they have less protection. Basically they have no armor, just the gauntlets. Let's say that the gauntlets here are iron gauntlets, and as you can see, because this is a mercenary unit, all of these individuals, they have boots. Now let's have a look at the boots here. So the boots here, as you remember, I said that the boots were something more expensive, so they have leather boots. So this could mean that because these are mercenaries, they work for someone that is going to contract them, so they are going to receive payment in full by the contractor, so they have slightly better gear. However, they don't have any protection. Now, in this time period, buff coat and the light clothes are going to be the norm. So the soldiers are going to drop armor because the armor is going to be cumbersome, and so on and so forth, up until the point that we reach the coats. So yeah, so these guys have wantlets, boots, buff coats, and you can see the hats. The hats have plumes here. Some of these guys have more likely red. There are nothing else. Some of them don't have plumes. Some of them have red and yellow plumes. Okay, so we're going to leave it here, and we're going to continue in part 2 for Tier 1 units in Pike and Short mod 1648, the 30 Years' War for Medieval 2. So see you in the next one.